name is Valentina. I'm a rising senior at William Penn High School. And just to tell a little bit about myself, I'm from Venezuela. I came 2 years ago to the United States by myself. And because of the situation my country is going through, one day I told Mom, Dad, listen, there is no future for me here, and I'm just living. I'm just gonna pursue my dream of going to college in the U.S. and at some point be able to come back to Venezuela and do something about the dictatorship we're living now in. And surprisingly, they say, okay, go ahead. And after that, a lot of things have been happening. When I came here, I spoke just a little bit of English. I just knew how to say, hello, my name is Valentina, and I'm from Venezuela. I was really shy. William Penn is the largest school in the state, and I was the only Venezuelan there, and I had no clue of how the educational system works here. And I had to find it my own way. So that's what I did, and that's kind of who I am. I think it really depends on the student because we all come from a different background and we'll come from a different situation as well, from a different country. Or maybe we don't come from this country, but our parents do not speak English. So that make us be English language learners because that's the language we learned at home was Spanish or any other language. And for me, based on my experience and seeing other students, I feel like the four main challenges I think students face are language, the new culture, the separation, and many times the documentation. But again, it really depends on the student and what they're going through because sometimes they are individuals from Puerto Rico. They're citizens of the United States, but some of them may not speak English, and once they come to Delaware, they are not able to communicate with teachers, so that's a problem. But then maybe there is another student coming from any other country, and when they get here, they're undocumented. And maybe there are pathways that they can follow in order to get citizenship, but because there is a lack of information, they don't get to know what they're going through. And then there is a huge cultural shock when we come here. At school like mine, there is not a lot of Latino students. There is not a lot of Asian students. So once we come here from another country where everybody looks kind of like you, and you get dropped in a school that people does not look the same way as you do, you're like, okay, this is kind of weird. And the other thing is when you don't get enough support, you need to have someone there to tell you, okay, maybe you could go here instead of going to this class. This is the class you should take instead of taking that class. But that support is not necessarily there when you need it. When I got here in 2016, I wish I had a teacher. His name is Mr. Caro. I hope he doesn't get mad about it. But he was a huge part of my educational journey since I got here. He was a person who was like, every time I was missing Mom and Dad, I was like, Mr. Caro, I need someone to talk to. Can I talk to you? And he was all for it. And he has been there for me all the time. But I wish there was at least one person, a teacher, a counselor that was telling me, okay, instead of this is the pathway you have to take in order to get to college because that's what you want to do. When I got here, I had no clue there were honor classes. I had no clue AP classes existed. Much less I knew that I have to take the SAT. And if I don't get a good SAT score, that's going to have an impact in my college application. So it really depends on the students that the situation we're going through. But based on another thing I do, and that's how I kind of get the idea of the different things that the students go through, is I take the English language ESL classes, and a lot of the students from many countries take that class. The majority of them are from Mexico and Puerto Rico. And I was able to do a research project and do a survey for close to 50 of them to see what were the different needs that they had, because there was people telling me, okay, but you keep saying that ESL students have this issue, but how do we know that what you're saying is true? I was okay, I'm gonna let you know based on a survey that I'm gonna do to them. And yes, the first barrier their answer was the language. And there are students that got here the same year as I did, and they cannot have a conversation with you. there are other students that, okay, they're learning English and they're having improvement, but they feel so shy that because even though they know the language, they're not going to talk to you because they think that you're going to make fun of their accent. So it really depends. Again, it really, really depends on the student and their experience they're having. The state of Delaware is one of the 4 states that does not provide any funding. It's just 4 states that don't do that. And just to know that there is not that support that students like me need in order to have success either at school in the workforce, that's, I would say, can be painful because there are other groups that have more privilege than a group like mine, than the Latino community, than the ESL community. And just to know that the money is used in other things that are not going to provide the same outcome, a positive outcome that funding for ESL students could have. And just imagine that, like in my school, we do have some funding for the ESL program, but it's just because we take the ESL class, and once we leave that class, there is nothing else for us. So for me, personally, I will say that the funding, if we had this funding, once the federal government said or the state said, okay, we're going to give you this money, it could change a lot of things. The survey could change from a student saying, I learned English, so the language is not a barrier for me anymore. I went from an F to an A in my class because I learned English and they gave me, the government gave us the money that we needed. And if we could have let the students know about the legal, what they need to know about legal in order to get a legal status, if we can get that, we cannot get that without money. And a lot of people complain like, okay, this is students undocumented, and so we don't need to provide them anything. But what if this student could have success with having a social security number? Because many times when you don't have social security, there are many doors that get closed. And that's because sometimes we don't really know what to do. We don't know where the resources are. And I believe that there is like a hole. And then here is students, and here is the resources, opportunities, and information. And we need to build a bridge in between to get these students who walk from not knowing all the opportunities they have to actually get to that. And that bridge is the funding. Without funding, there is not opportunities a student can get. There is not resources they can have without having money to get it. And then it will be the easiest way to solve the problems I mentioned before. For me, I think it's because I always had the idea of what I wanted to do. I had a lot of voices telling me, you should do this, don't do that, but I was really focused on what I wanted to do, which is college. And when I didn't really speak English back then, I was like, okay, every time I'm done with school, I'm gonna go home and start watching movies in English, watch videos in English. And people, like in my house, my family would speak English and Spanish. Sorry. So we try to speak English instead of Spanish so I can practice more. And I feel like when you actually have a thrive, when you have something that drives you to a goal, there are no barriers that are big enough to tell you that you cannot do something. I have even, sometimes my family, they were like, no, you're coming back because you don't speak English. And mom and dad are not with you. So it's better for you to just come back. I'm like, okay, no, wait for it. I'm going to show you that what you're saying is not right. I'm going to prove you that what you're saying is totally wrong. And that's what I did. I proved them that I could learn English in less than a year. I proved them that advocating for other students is not easy, but it's possible. And yeah, I believe my thrive and my drive has been exactly that. My drive is my aspiration for my goals and to my desire of getting a higher education outside of high school. Actually, I really don't see myself the way I saw it 2 years ago. This country's huge. People can be kind of scared sometimes. And when I got here, I I was scared. I'm not gonna lie. I wasn't sure if I was gonna make it or not. But it was like I'm gonna give it a shot and see how it goes. And then I have never been like super shy, but because of the situation, I was like okay. Ugh. And the English was a huge part. At first in class, I didn't really want to talk because I thought people was gonna make fun of my accent. And after 2 years, I still have an accent. You just look at me and you know I'm not American. You look at me and you know, you listen to me and you know, I don't English is not my first language. So there were many things that I was like, okay, this is gonna be hard. And then I wish I could go home and be like, Mom, I met this one guy that was speaking English to me and I had no clue what he was saying. Or this one teacher was interested on kind of getting to know about Venezuela, but I really didn't know how to say it to him. And then, Mom, like, there is lunch for free. Like, we don't have that in Venezuela. And you do here. You get everything for free. And I wish I could go back home and be like, Mom, I got all of this. But I cannot. Mom wasn't here anymore. Dad was close to 3,000 kilometers away from me. And I didn't have that besides just calling them and be like, Mom, I'm really happy I was able to make this. But at the same time, I feel kind of sad because I cannot communicate. And then as time went by, I was like, okay, I'm not going to let the fact that my parents are not with me, the fact that I don't speak English, the fact that culture is totally different be more than my aspirations. And I ended up having all of those barriers as my motivation to keep going forward. And that's, I will say, like the difference between 2 years ago and now. I use other things that could be the reason for me to stay home and not leave the house to actually do something about it. And now I speak English, which is really nice. And I can say that in 2 years, something else is like my people was always telling me, it's okay if in the first marking period you don't get a 4.0. You don't speak English, so I'm like, no, I have to get a 4.0. And since I got here, my GPA has been 4.0 all the marking periods. And when I realized something that made me really mad was that during the first weeks of high school, I didn't know that AP classes are really important. And I didn't take any AP that year. This year, my junior year, I took just one. But then next year, I'm taking 4. So I believe that I have grown a lot as a student, but as a person too. And then there is this organization called Teen Sharp that is a college prep program. And they provide kind of all the resources, opportunities, and support that I wish I had in 2016. I have been part of them since 2017, and they have been everything I could have asked since I got here. When you say that, there is one person that came out to my mind right away. There is one girl that I met in an advisory class. The first class I had, she was there. And we knew the same exact English, but we came from very different backgrounds. She came from Mexico. And our backgrounds were pretty different. And when I mean different, it was I had the privilege of having education before I got here. My parents were always there when I needed their support, but for her, it was different. She didn't have that. And talking to her, I realized that her Spanish was not, it was fluent, but it was not the kind of Spanish you will expect from a high school student that had an education previously, if that makes sense. And and then she was writing in Spanish, and there were many mistakes on her writing. And I was okay, there must be something that a lack of education back in her country. And that's something really important that we need to think about. That students will come from different backgrounds, and the educational system should adapt to each of those situations. Because okay, I know how to speak Spanish and I know how to write it, but maybe this person does not know to do that, and that's what happened with this girl. So that's where I'm going. So yeah, she still has a hard time she speaks Spanish right, but like the way she writes it, you know that she has, I think that's called like writing errors. So we met the first year, September of 2016. September 2017, first day of school. No, there is something happening because her English hasn't really improved. So then March of 2018, and school is about to be over. Still the same thing. There is something happening. And I had, her English teacher was my English teacher too, an ESL teacher. And I was talking to her, and I was like, is there something happening with her? She's like, I really don't know what's happening, because at this point, it's been 2 years and she still doesn't know how to speak English. But I had a couple of classes with her, and I always like to talk to her and be like, what's happening? How can I help you? And she was having a hard time with her mom. Her mom was very sick. And maybe I'm not right with this, but I believe she doesn't have a social security number. Her immigration status is not the one she would like to have in order to get health support. So that's another issue. And then she has another sister that is not always super nice and kind with her. So that's another issue. And then she was like, and she had a boyfriend too. Same thing, he was not a kind boyfriend with her. So she was going through a lot of emotional things besides the English part, besides trying to get used to another environment that she's still not very used to. And then the other thing was like, okay, how can I help you to like kind of overcome all those problems? And she was always telling me, can you write some verbs in English and I can like learn them? Or when I have free periods, I always try to go to the ESL class, and she's always there. So I'm like, listen, instead of using Google Translator, I use this one. So maybe you can use that instead of the one you're using. And at some point, you're not gonna be using Google Translator because your head is gonna like do it for itself. Or instead of using, to give you an idea, instead of using red pencil, use black. That's what worked for me. And like giving her the kind of like the things that work for me that make me be able to speak another language. And at this point, I mean, I haven't really talked to her now, but I hope that when we see each other when school starts, her English has improved and all those things. And then another part, we take another class together, and our teacher, she's awesome. She always tries to put stuff in English and Spanish for her so she can get the idea of reading English, Spanish, and kind of getting to understand what this word means in English and stuff like that. But really, really easy things that you may think that you would read and you will get the idea in Spanish. She still asks me, Valentina, can you help me read this, because I really don't understand, either in English and Spanish, to the point when one time we were doing a geography assignment, and we had to say where our country was, in what continent. And she's actually from North America. And when they were about to, she was like, okay, I really don't know where North America is. So just that's what can give you an idea of the lack of education she had previously, to the point where she really does not know where continent she's from. And I told her, the teacher, I was like, there is something that we need to do to help her, because it's not that she doesn't want to learn, it's that there are many things that she's lacking on. And again, it's not because she doesn't want to fill those holes. It's because she doesn't have the support and she didn't have it before. And something else that I experienced this year after what happened in Puerto Rico and the natural disaster that happened in Puerto Rico and Mexico, a lot of ESL students started to come to my school. And all of them were going through different things because something else is students like me wouldn't come here because we want to come here. There are things that are happening in our countries that are forcing us to come to the U.S. And that's what happened with all these students. And because they were having a hard time and they didn't really know how to acclimate to everything that was happening, they were just skipping classes. They were just taking the wrong decisions because they didn't really know how to react to the situation that they were going through. And there was no support for them to be like, okay, you instead of skipping classes, come here and talk to me so we can figure something out. And that wasn't there. And same thing when I got here, there was not someone that the school was providing me to actually get to know the school better, get more friends, because that's another part. If you don't speak English, how can you make friends in a school where I would say 95% of the whole student population is English speaking? And then if you go and talk to someone in your ESL class, they're not from the same country as you. So you're like, okay, maybe they don't really want to talk to me because we're not from the same place. So there are a lot of factors that play into. So I think it's not a lot, but it's a little bit. A little bit. As part of Teen Sharp, a lot of things have happened in my life. I would say that Teen Sharp is a before and an after for me. So at first, I have my best friend. Her name is Tatiana Romero, and we always do everything together. Like we see each other Monday to Monday. And in Teen Sharp, Teen Sharp is a college prep program for African American students and Latino students who are low income students. And the Latino population there was not really big. And clearly, all the students only spoke English. And they didn't really know a lot about our culture. Something else, as a side note, that really makes me upset is that people ask me, where are you from? Where do you think I'm from? Puerto Rico? Mexico? I'm like, no, Venezuela. And they're like, oh, what is that? Where is it located? Oh. And I'm not mad about the fact that they don't know it. I'm mad about the fact that they have not learned about it. And I mean, it's okay. Those are the largest populations that they see daily. But again, the fact that they just know about Mexico and Puerto Rico, that's a problem. Because Latin America are a lot of other countries too. So because of that, my best friend, she's from El Salvador. And she has the same problem. She's like, where are you from? Puerto Rico or Mexico? No, El Salvador, Venezuela. And
Is that Mexico? No.
So yeah, we decided to do a Spanish club at Teen Sharp. It's called Hola. And the idea of the Spanish club is, of course, try to teach Spanish to the students, but at the same time, get them to know more about the Latin American countries. So they can choose what country they want to. Oh, the Teen Sharp, we have to go to UD every Saturday from 10 to 4. We take college classes. It's a really rigorous program, but that changed my life. So we get 1 hour to do our Spanish club, and what we do is we do the whole workshop in Spanish. And students get to learn about each country. So let's say this Saturday we do Cuba. So they're gonna learn about the currency that Cuba has. Where is Cuba located? What is happening in Cuba? And what do they eat in Cuba? So things like that. And at Teen Sharp, I took a class called Ideas into Action through the Horn Entrepreneurship Program. The Horn Entrepreneurship Program also has a competition called the Diamond Challenge. At Teen Sharp and the Diamond Challenge, they both had before and after in my life as well as my best friends, if I can talk about through her, por ella. So we competed at the Diamond Challenge, and we created a social innovation project called Education in Times of Immigration. And that competition is really long. It takes I would say like between 2 months to for the whole process, and it has like a lot of rounds. It's an international competition where people from China, Spain, Australia, the whole United States compete, and we competed clearly, and we made it for the top 5. Close to 700 teams submitted their idea, and we were able to pitch it, and we won through the Diamond Challenge $2,000 to put into our idea. And we had the option of using that money towards scholarships or to our idea, or ETI. We go by ETI, Education in Times of Immigration. And we decided we were going to use it through ETI. And the mission of ETI is empower young Hispanic immigrants through education, access, and opportunity. And the 4 problems that are the same ones I mentioned before that we're trying to solve are language, new culture, separation, and documentation. Hopefully by the beginning of next school year, which is August 27th. And we can have a pilot. It's a pilot project, so we're gonna be implementing an ESL cohort, and hopefully we will be able to provide immigration lawyers. We will be able to provide guest speakers, and everything how we ended up creating this project was by thinking, what is that we would have wished we had in 2016 that we didn't, to make our journey in the U.S. even better. And something else we did, it was going to the classrooms to ask the ESL students, we have $2,000 for you guys. What is that you want me to do with those? I'm not going to spend it on me. So you tell me what size you need, and I'm going to pay for it. ETI is going to pay for it. And they said tutors. And sometimes they're really afraid of speaking up because they think that you're going to make fun of it or that something else is going to happen. If you're an undocumented individual, you're not going to go and say to someone, hey, I need an immigration lawyer because I crossed the border or my visa expired. That's not something you tell everyone. And sometimes you don't even say it because you're just too afraid of speaking up. Or you see this problem, and again, you're being shy or you're being afraid of the consequences, you decide to just don't say anything. And my best friend Tatiana and me, we decided to be the voice of these students. And after we created ETI, that was January, February, somewhere close around there. It's been like 6 months now, and through those 6 months, we have been able to meet awesome people. And I won the Hispanic Student Recognition Award, and I won the Community Service category. I applied for a grant for ETI through Grip Tape. I got another $500. And the funny thing is that money, all of that money was like in a month. So I was like, Mom, I got 500. Mom, I got 1,000. Mom, I got another 1,000. They were like, what are you doing? You're getting out this money in this short time. And I wish I can talk more about ETI, but because things are not like actually happening now because the school hasn't started yet. But I hope that by December we can talk again, and I will tell you all this is happening. And if I don't think about ETI, what I have been doing advocating for students is getting close to them, getting to know them, talking to them, and tell them, like, if you need someone, I'm here for you. If you need to get to know more about English, we can talk and I can help you out. And I will say tutoring students, and what else do I do? Yeah, like my main advocacy work is always for Latino students. And right now I'm doing an internship with Rodell Foundation. And my two goals with Rodell are with post-secondary education, which is exactly where I hope I'll be going, which is college. And then working for ESL students to get funding for them. And and then I'm really thankful that I have the opportunity of speaking up for students that don't necessarily have the opportunity to do so. And and I'm able to talk to people and tell them, okay, this is what we need, and you have the opportunity to do something about it. Why aren't you doing something? And because that's another issue. A lot of people, legislators, senators, the government, they have everything they need in order to do something, but they just decide not to do anything about it. And I hope that with the video, we get that what we need for our students in order for them to find success.